Mswatu inkosi ithula akayithathe akahambe nayo yadenza kade wone
Your time is 2 p.m. and this is the Tuesday edition of Market View right here on Eswatini. Let's listen to it. Glad to be on the program. As Eswatini continues to position itself within the global economy, the role of business incubation and capacity building for entrepreneurs, especially SMEs, has never been more critical. Central to two discussions at the Global Cooperation and Training Framework Conference has been the role of business incubation programs in supporting startups and MSMEs to scale and compete in an increasingly globalized marketplace. To help us unpack these important discussions around business incubation and entrepreneurship, we'll speak to one of the key voices at the conference, a global expert in technology, commercialization and startup development, Eric Azile. But first, in our business stories, we'll make sense of Eswatini's annual inflation rate, which declined to 1.9% in February of 2026. In our business stories, we begin with this. The headline inflation rate last month stood at 1.9%. This inflation rate is 0.2 percentage points lower than the 2.1% observed in January. This is according to the Consumer Price Index released by the Central Statistics Office today. What has led to this decline in inflation this year, and what does this mean for consumers? Can we expect this decline to remain steady given the global economy and ongoing geopolitical tensions? We're now joined by Hansen Dlamini, Principal Statistician at the Ministry of Economic Planning, to answer these questions for us. Ngozi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. Let's start here. What has led to this decline in inflation this year, and what does this really mean for consumers?
Okay, thank you very much, Notsile. This inflation, it's a monthly inflation, yes, and it has really gone down from 2.1 to 1.9, and the major causes, or what we have seen that have declined, is alcoholic beverages. Although we are saying alcoholic beverages have shown a downward trend, but due to its weight in our basket, the weight is not that much big, but we have items like food and non-alcoholic beverages, which have not shown an upward trend. That's the main thing that has led to the downward trend in the inflation. However, having a downward trend does not necessarily mean that the prices have gone down. They have increased, but at a lower rate than the previous month.
Jose, can we expect this decline to remain steady given the global economy and the ongoing geopolitical tensions?
Well, I would say in the short term, that is within the first 2-3 months, we might see the inflation rate at this very same rate, or even if it increase, it be around the less than 3%. But going forward, that's where we expect that maybe it might gain due to the global conflicts that are there in the Middle East, where fuel, I would say fuel comes from. But for us as Eswatini, we are not following the market prices per se. You find that within the country there are those regulators, which at times, even in the market, the prices have gone up, but you find that in the country we have hold the prices constant for some few weeks or few months, and then we let it up again. So we might see it in the mid-term going forward, but for next month or even a month after next month, it's likely that we will have the inflation around the figure of 2% or less than 3%.
Because you've highlighted how sectors such as health, alcohol and tobacco recorded decreases in inflation rates, but as per the report, it also notes that we're seeing rather an ease of inflation in categories such as clothing and footwear, which actually recorded increases. May I ask, what, or rather, should consumers be expecting similar trends in the coming future?
Yes, they should expect, but that is within the short term. That is within the next 3 months. But if fuel prices goes up, then most of the items will change. As you will be aware that most of our commodities, we import them, and they are being affected by transport costs. Even those that are being produced locally, there are some costs related to transport that also contribute to their prices. So within the short term, I would say the same trend will be observed, but after that, we are likely to see an upward trend.
Fair enough. Because in the interest of time, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much for talking to us. That was Hansen Dlamini, Principal Statistician at the Ministry of Economic Planning, unpacking the recently released CPI data by the ministry. Moving on with some of our business stories, primary school learners from around the country have expressed appreciation to different financial institutions that are conducting financial education this Global Money Week. Speaking at Malandela's in Malkans, the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini, who was represented by the Head of Internal Audit, Lindiwe Mlambo, advised them to always be vigilant when it comes to money matters.
This year, our theme is Smart Money Talks. It is all about helping you confidently have financial conversations, whether with your family, your friends, a bank representative, or anyone else. It is important to learn how to talk about money, and most importantly, how to keep yourself safe while doing so. As young people, you are growing up in a world where we make financial decisions every single day.
Pupils who took part in the fair said that learning about money is critical as it will help them save for their future dreams. Some have also shared that saving will enable them to support their parents when needed.
For future purposes, when we get older, so we can know the importance of saving our money and keeping it safe.
Save imali kumqonga ngoba ufuna kwenta tidzingo takho nawusesemncane unangabe batali bakho ngaba labangakhoni kwenta tintfo ngendlela ufise kwenta ngayo. I want to be a doctor when I grow up, so I want to save more money so that I can pay my fees in the university class.
Ngoba ukufunda ngekubhanga imali ngoba mase udzala utawudzinga ngokuthi ukwazi utawukhona kuthenga tintfo lebewusoluti kuphela.
The Global Money Week is from the 16th to the 22nd of this month. Its objective? to ensure that young people from an early age are financially aware and are gradually acquiring the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors necessary to make sound financial decisions and ultimately achieve financial well-being and financial resilience. Reporting, Nelson Langamandla, Smuvashongwe, Malkans.
And that is your business brief. Market View continues after this.
Hello to all the viewers of Eswatini TV in the kingdom and beyond. Eswatini TV is regulated by the Eswatini Communications Commission through the Broadcasting Code and Broadcasting Guidelines. Under these instruments, the station commits to broadcasting information and news that have been fact-checked, programs and content in respectful language with no elements of hate speech, violence or sexual activity. If you hear any unsuitable content on this channel, you have a right to voice your complaints with the station management. Should you not be satisfied with the response or action taken, you can escalate your matter to the Communications Commission at PO Box 7811 Babani. Call 2406 7000 or send an email to info@esccom.org.za. For more information, visit www.esccom.org.za.
Welcome back. Moving on with the program, business incubation remains a critical tool in supporting startups, small businesses, and certainly young entrepreneurs. Lately, Eswatini has been strengthening its entrepreneurial ecosystem with organizations and incubators working to build capacity for MSMEs. The recently held Global Cooperation and Training Framework Conference heightened the conversation around entrepreneurship and innovation. But what does it take to build a successful incubation program, particularly in a developing economy? We're now joined by Eric Azile, a Fulbright specialist and global expert in technology commercialization and startup development. Eric, thank you so much for your time. You've been a speaker. You were just participating as a speaker at the recently held GCTF conference. What were some of the key themes of your presentation?
Thank you, Nicole. It's great to be here on Market View. So at the GCTF, sponsored by the U.S. Embassy and Taiwan, was a great chance to meet people in the ecosystem, both from the government side, from the private side, and the grassroots with the entrepreneurs. The key points that I wanted to make when I was there, speaking about incubation, was really about the fundamental components of training for entrepreneurs, and that is something that right now I see a lack of in Eswatini. These structured long-term incubation programs that provide consistent hand-holding and training in the practical, not the theoretical, elements of entrepreneurship and starting your own businesses and growing your own business. So that was something that I really was trying to hammer on, was that we really need a bit more of that in the country and around the country for these young startups.
How do you think we can work around, because one, we have the agency that's trying to get MSMEs out there, but then also we have all of these, frameworks that kind of to the MSMEs appear as bottlenecks or red tape. How do you think we can work around them as a country?
Sure. That's a very good question. I mean, the question of who is responsible for doing this. Is it the government side? Is it, the grassroots kind of entrepreneurial side? And because even though there's a lot of attention put on this now about growing from micro to small, from small to medium, and the government is now starting some different initiatives, which we applaud. I mean, this is great. But I tell the entrepreneurs, don't wait. these are kind of things that you should not be waiting for the government to do. If you can reach out and find your mentors, if you can find peers that have been successful, not that they're unicorns or they're internationally the listed on the stock exchange, but have gone through the same things that you have solved those problems, that's where the mentoring process happens. And the most famous and best and most efficient ecosystems in the world are really the grassroots ones where they come together. Yes, government can help with some funding or with some training or bring in some experts, but it's really the incubators and the peer networks of entrepreneurs working among themselves that really have provided the most value, I believe, and can get through those bottlenecks, because those bottlenecks will be there with government. I mean, that is part of the that's part of the package of what you get. You might get the support, but there is a lot of bureaucracy and rules, so it's understandable.
You're an expert in global commercialization and innovation. Allow me to ask, Eric, what were some of the common questions or concerns that were raised by the participants during the recently held GCTF?
Sure. Of course, because this was a conference and we had some very high-level participants from the government, which was great, because showing the Ministry of Commerce, the Ministry of ICT being there, this to me shows a very a commitment past just the headlines, that they're there and they're really interested in saying, how can we grow this? So that's great. So there was a variety of questions. Some were more to them, saying, hey, what kind of government interventions can we have? Or the frameworks that we have, why are they so bureaucratic or so problematic? Why aren't we showing results? And I'll leave that to them to answer those questions. The questions that were more interesting to me, of course, were specifically about the training or specifically about market access or how do we grow this. A lot of the questions, I'll be honest, and this may not be the most popular answer, were about funding. Where can I get more funding? And this is kind of a controversial maybe take on this, but in my opinion, as a foreigner coming in, the most crucial issue here in Eswatini is not funding. There is funding available, both from NGOs, from the government as well. To me, it's that the funding is being given without the entrepreneurs having the basic training of what to do with that funding. Entrepreneurs, and hey, I love grants or free money just as much as the next person, but if I don't have the training of how to use that specifically to grow my business, then I will not spend that in the most efficient way. And then when I finish with that grant, my next question is, where's my next grant? And that is why I'm such a proponent of having these training programs and these structured, actual systemized training programs. Say, this is how you grow a business. This is the most efficient way to use that grant or to use that loan, so that when you are finished with that, your business is now sustainable. It is now breaking even at the very least, or hopefully making a profit, so that those grants can really be something that can accelerate your growth, as opposed to the life support, which is not what it should be. For the first level, that's fine, but for later on, the business should itself be growing and what we call bootstrapping, growing by its own operations and its own revenue that comes in. So that is one of the things that I've been speaking to both to government and entrepreneurs, is that yes, of course, we need a certain level of funding for grants or for no collateral loans, etc. But in general, to me, that's not the fundamental question here.
How much training do we need to unlock funding? Because we've had SEDCO training MSMEs, we've had RSTP with incubation programs, we've had many other stakeholders coming in to say, we want to offer opportunities to upcoming businesses. But if it's an issue of, is it a matter of policy really? Where's the gap here?
So I've read all the policies. When I first came back in October, November, I was given reports on the policies from MSME, from the Ministry of Commerce, et cetera. The policy's fine, right? You read the policy and you're like, yes, this is perfectly fine. Like startups, it's really in the execution, right? How does that actually translate to the day-to-day business? And the trainings that I've seen, there are plenty of trainings available. Without saying anything about anybody, it's the quality of the training, not the quantity, right? So again, when I go and talk to the entrepreneurs, say, how effective was this training? How much did this help you? Usually the answer is not much. And if you dig a little bit deeper in there, one of the questions is that the people that are doing the training for entrepreneurship, are they entrepreneurs themselves? Are they business people themselves? Do they have that actual on-the-ground experience? And unfortunately, most of the time the answer is no. And entrepreneurism is a very realistic, very relevant, very practical thing. You can't get too far on theory. You have to have the people who have been there, done that, and give the practical results. And so for having those mentors or having those trainers that have actually gone and started a business, raised that funds, gotten those customers, maybe started exporting.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing to me, is not the quantity, but the quality of the training.
Based on your experience, what do you think are some of the success factors for a business incubation program in a country or an economy developing as Eswatini?
Well, first of all, I do think it has to be sustained. And some of the entrepreneurs said, and again, at this point for a developing economy, all training is good, pretty much. If you have the one-day workshops, if you have a 2 or 3 day kind of boot camp, that's fine. As a matter of fact, we just had a Friday workshop at the American Center, supported by the U.S. government there on specifically incubation. Not that much time, but it's a heck of a lot better than nothing, right? And the people coming there with their passion was great. But the question for me is, and entrepreneurs have raised this too, is how about the longer term? Because you can have a great workshop and then 2 days later, the energy's gone, and where do you get that follow-up? So having a longer term incubation program, I think, is key. Usually we'd look at like 7 to 8 weeks of a training program. And again, the topics are standard topics people know about, right? With funding, go-to-market strategies, knowing your value proposition, finances, these kind of things. But the main thing for me, again, is coming back to and saying, okay, do the people teaching this have that experience? Do they have the real-time experience of being a business? Entrepreneurs are very smart, and they will find out extremely quickly if you really know what you're talking about or if this is something out of a book. So for me, the incubation program is you've got to have the right experts who have been there and done that, and have those mentors as well that can say, I've been where you are. This is how we do this in a practical sense.
And in the long term, how do you see the role of business incubators evolving?
Well, I mean, because this is a growing ecosystem, right now we're kind of looking at level 1 of incubators, which are kind of like co-working spaces at this level. Here's a physical space. We offer internet, we offer air conditioning, we have some nice tables. You can work with your colleagues. Maybe we do a TED Talk or a conference every once a month, and that's fine for level 1. As the economy develops, as the entrepreneurs develop, incubators will also develop as well, and they need much more on the training, the market access of people who have, hey, I've been in that industry before, I know how to do this, certification. And it's much more on not the physical services, but the actual training and the human resources that you can tap into those networks. And to be honest, at this point, for mentors and experience, there's not so many because there's not many success stories yet. As the economy develops and we have more of those success stories, people will be able to give back, and that will go into the level 2 of the incubators, which is the standard growth that we see. So that's where I see the incubators going, but we really need to kind of do level 1 first. Yeah,
Eric, it's not your first visit to the kingdom. Talk to me about what you make of the local business ecosystem. You say you've had engagements with government, the different stakeholders across different sectors. You've also had the opportunity to speak to some of these businesses. What do you make of the ecosystem?
So on the one hand, I mean, I've been extremely impressed talking with micro and small businesses, and like I said, at these conferences, talking to entrepreneurs, the passion of the young and not so young entrepreneurs is fantastic. The idea that, again, I'm going to go out and solve these problems and we can make money as well for my community and for the kingdom is fantastic. And so finding that energy and having that desire for entrepreneurship and to create business, wonderful. Are there structural gaps here? Absolutely, right? I mean, people talk all about the time about the difficulty of trying to start a business, right? The tax regimes of that, these are too onerous for the level that I'm at. And I was very encouraged at the GCTF when we heard the ministers talking about, hey, we're working on a program where you can register your company online. Right? That would be fantastic. Instead of having to wait in lines and go to several different agencies and get the signatures, etc. I think that's a great initiative, and I would love to see that continue with other things like tax reporting or certification and having to do that. So, yes, the entrepreneur drive is there. To grow there, we need to take away some of these burdens. Some of them are policies, and some of them are cultural, and some of them are economic. But I do see a lot of dynamism. And that's why I've come here and will continue to come here, because I think there is so much room for opportunity. There's so much opportunity here, and there's so much room to have a significant impact. I see opportunities all over the place here in Eswatini, and I can't wait to work with the entrepreneurs and some of the institutions to kind of get this going forward.
Fair. And you've learned of the progress that we've made as a country from the minister telling you about I think it's the business one-stop shop where people are able to register their businesses effectively. Given that I'd like for you to speak to especially somebody that wants to start up a business anytime soon. Why they need to take the chance, specifically to the importance of a business incubation program.
Yeah. I mean, for the people that want to start a business, and you know, I'm a big fan of entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I've started and run a couple of companies. It's not for everyone, and I we're not going to make everybody an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It has to come from inside. I can teach you these hard and soft skills, absolutely, but the desire and the passion of being an entrepreneur and being ready to work 24/7, and because you have this dream, I can't teach you that. And so this idea of, and this is a very good question of, should I take this risk and try to start a business when I could get a job over here, which is secure and I can provide for my family? That's not something I can do. The only thing that I can do, hopefully, is work with the institutions and try to lower those risks and say, okay, it's not so scary to start that business, to talk to funders and to get those kind of finances and have that kind of training. When I was doing this in other places around the world, even India, in the United States, we say time is money. For entrepreneurs, even more so. So when I invite somebody into an incubation program and say, I want to help work with you for 6 weeks, I understand that is a huge sacrifice to them.
Yeah.
And that's a huge ask. But I always say, I guarantee I will not waste your time. And that after the end of the 6 weeks, you will absolutely be better positioned to grow your business, to get funding, both from government and from outside sources. And if this is really what you want to do, I guarantee you that this will be something that you will appreciate and look for your business for the rest of your life.
Fair enough, Eric. We'll leave it here. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you so
time.
much.
That was Eric Azile, who is the founder for the Alliance for Commercialization and Innovation Research Foundation. We were discussing all things business incubation following the recently held Global Cooperation and Training Framework Conference. The show continues after this.
Akayithathe akahambe nayo.
Those that are in pain must forget all the problems they have. Because the things of the earth have got no answer. But the answer that we have is all the morning. When I'm preaching here, I'm preaching to myself. I receive the Holy Spirit.
I declare that a turnaround is coming my way.
Turnaround is coming in my life.
Akayithathe akahambe nayo.
Welcome back for our market analysis segment. In-house economist analyst Sibia joins us virtually. Mr. Sibia, good afternoon. Glad to have you with us. With just less than 4 minutes to go, the war in Iran has gone on for longer than many of us would like. What are markets really pricing in at this point?
Thank you, Notsile. Good afternoon to you, and also good afternoon to the viewer. So a quick start. We start with the US. What we're seeing there is
your video on.
From the tech sector.
Mr. Sibia, may I request that you have your video turned on so that we may be able to see you as usual? All right, you're good to go.
Now.
You're good to go, Mr. Sibia.
They are going to go into the trillion by next year.
My apologies there. We do seem to be having technical challenges with connecting to Mr. Spear. However, let's have a look at some of the figures in today's trading day. Taking a look at currencies, the USD is trading at least, or rather the Lilangeni is trading at least 16 emalangeni 77 cents to the dollar, and against the euro we're looking at 19.39 emalangeni, and against the Japanese yen we are looking at 9.45 Japanese yen. And moving on to the ESE All Share Index, we're looking at least 493.16 emalangeni. And the JSE still below the 120,000 mark. We're looking at least 115,986.81 emalangeni. That's a dip by 5.7544. And gold currently trading at least $5,001 per ounce, and crude oil trading at least $102.92 per barrel. Moving on to the New York Stock Exchange, the S&P 500 is trading at $6,699.38 US, and the Nasdaq 100 is trading at $22,000 $374.18, and the Dow Jones looking at $46,946 and 41 cents. And moving on to some of our European markets, the FTSE 100 is trading at 10,376 euros to 376 euros and 57 cents, and the DAX looking at 23,203 euros to 66 cents, and the CAC 40 index we're looking at least 7,832 euros and 19 cents. Moving on to Asia, starting off with the Nikkei at least 53,700 points, and the Hang Seng Index at least 25,868 and 54 cents, and the Chinese index they're looking at least 4,049.91 Chinese yen. And with that, we wrap up our markets. In fact, we're wrapping up the Market View, the Tuesday edition of Market View. It's been lovely from myself and the team. Take care.